Hey everybody, we're back. We back. What's up, Toby? Me and
Hi,
Toby.
Steven.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Fantastic. As the
Happy New
great
Year.
Buck Slavovich would always say, fantastic. Today, we got a great podcast. Going to see my friend's podcast, Office Space, coming up. Hey, everybody. We're back again.
Hi, Steven.
Going to see my friend's podcast, season 2, quote unquote, season 2. And as always, I have my good friend, Toby. What's up, Toby?
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Thanks for listening. This is a lot of fun. We're having a lot of fun with this.
Always. This is great to be back. We took a little break, and it was nice to. I didn't realize that we had shot off like 20 in a row.
Wow.
And so that was a good run.
It was. We've got a lot of good feedback from our friends, family. Yeah. And we took, like you said, we took a little break. It feels like a month or more off.
Yeah.
And we've got, we're gonna see if we can get this thing flowing and good, and we're gonna do it good and do it right.
Yes. And like Toby said, we had a lot of feedback on our first, and we're just learning. We're learning as we go. Mm-hmm. So we took a lot of feedback and great feedback. And if continue to give us some feedback, it'd be great. And we're going to roll out this new season with the movie Office Space, which is a classic, which I saw in the movie theater.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was great to see that. And where did you see it, Toby? Did you see it in the theaters, or did you?
I did not see it in the theater. That's actually in my notes and I've got a reason why. There is a good reason why. This was a DVD purchase by a roommate of mine, and then was probably never taken out of the DVD player for quite some time. At that point, in the early 2000s. But so you saw it in the theater. You were an early adopter.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it in Santa Rosa at the UA6. Is that the one behind 3rd Street Ale Works?
Yep.
I saw it there with a buddy of mine who I've lost touch with, who I've been trying to find for the last 25 years or so, 20 years. His name is Mark. Mark, if you're out there, hit me up, dude. And he was a cool guy.
Shoot up a flare, Mark.
Yeah. Wait, what'd you say? I'm sorry.
I said shoot up a flare. Is he missing? Has he gone missing all this time?
Yeah, dude. Can't find him. He was the greatest dude. We went and saw it on a matinee, and it was, I think, us two and maybe 2 other people in the theater. And we laughed our asses off, and it was just great. It was great. I knew it was going to hit, but it didn't in the theaters. It didn't hit until after it came out on DVD. But I thought it was going to be a big hit because it was just so funny. And at that time, I don't think I had worked in an office cubicle setting yet at that time, but I appreciated the whole corporate mindset of this movie. And that's where I related to it too anyways. But, so Toby, hit us up with the goods from this movie.
You got it. Absolutely. Well, the reason why it came to my mind when we were thinking about what to start this season off with is why Office Space and why now? And the reason why is because my wife and we're addicted to Severance, the show Severance.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a lot of that, and we'll talk about the plot, but it reminds every time I'm watching Severance, there's things that remind me so much of Office Space. So that was the reason why I was like, Let's just start this off with Office Space. So Office Space is written and directed by Mike Judge, who you probably know is the creator of Beavis and Butthead, which was a show on MTV. He also had the Milton comics that were animated comics that were shorts that was played on Liquid Television and SNL. And then at that point, he's also the co-creator of King of the Hill at the same time.
Yeah.
So he was quite prolific at that point. This was I believe his first live action movie.
Yeah.
It stars Ron Livingston, Jennifer Aniston, David Herman, Ajay Naidu, Diedrich Bader, Stephen Root, Gary Cole, and John C. McGinley. There's a bunch more. Those are really the stars of the show, in my opinion. It was filmed in Austin, Texas, May 4th to June 29th in 1998. Had a budget of approximately $10 million. Was released on February 19th, 1999. And that's when you would have been in the theater because it was in the box office. Usually February box office releases are kind of a tell, especially back then. When you have a February release, it means this is kind of where movies can go to die, and a lot of people don't see them.
Yeah,
that's right after the holidays. February is usually known for being slow, but it did make its money back in the box office. It made almost half of it back in the first weekend, coming in at 4.2 million in the first weekend. It would finish in the box office at a little over 10 million. So it made its money back, but is kind of considered a box office flop. And like you said, where it really took up to hit its stride is when it was released on DVD.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long for it to be in the top 20. I believe by 2003, it was in the top 20 best-selling Fox DVDs. And that's saying a lot because Fox was about as prolific as that DVD market was at the time. So that's really where everybody started. For me, that's where I saw it. I remember the trailers being on television and remembering I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob, right from the trailer. Yeah. And there was a lot like, boy, this looks like it's going to be silly, and it's kind of a new, kind of quirky comedy. I think at the time, really, we had like Austin Powers movies as our was it Austin Powers? It feels like the late 90s. There was a few of those. You had the Adam Sandler movies, and this is from the makers of Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill. And I did not get to see it. And the reason why is because I had 3 jobs at the time and trying to pay rent. So one of those was an office type job, but not in this Monday through Friday cubicle type setting. If I had been in a cubicle in 1999, I probably would have found a way to go see it.
Yeah.
But I had priorities, man. I couldn't really afford to go to the movies in 1999, even with all these different jobs that I was juggling. Yeah. So it was a DVD purchase. My roommate's girlfriend at the time was flabbergasted that I hadn't seen Office Space yet. And so she actually bought it for our apartment, for Rob and I's apartment, and it never came out of the DVD player. We watched it nonstop from right when it first came out. I think she bought it either for his birthday or my birthday. And it was obsessed from that point on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the I don't know what the word is, relatability to it for me, and probably for a lot of other people, is this idea of this kind of anonymous and as Severance has kind of taken the baton, is this kind of nameless, faceless kind of entity of the corporation that you work for.
Great point.
Yeah, which is, I think, in this movie, the face of it. I mean, there's higher ups, obviously, but it's Lumberg, and he kind of represents all that stuff. But I remember during this time, I too was I was working, 99, Jesus. I think I went back to school. I was in school again. So I was working, I believe, at La Vera Pizza. Okay. And that wasn't really a corporation. And that was kind of a cool job. But I think I had worked for Musicland and in Coddingtown Mall at that time. I worked for the Warehouse.
Excellent.
Yeah. And these are kind of places that, you think it's hip, or I was thinking, oh, this is hip. I work at a music store and I play music and I'm a musician and yada, yada, yada. But at the same time, there was these kind of things that you needed to not do and needed to do. And you're always being looked or watched and critiqued. And, oh, you have to push these sales. And it's just that kind of mindset, which, it's just a normal, job, I guess, in any job, if you're in sales or whatever. But at that point, you're working for pennies, you're working for probably minimum wage. You're not making that much money. But at the time, I mean, back in the 90s, early 90s, it was, I think you could kind of, your dollar went a little further than it does now. But I mean, still, you're working for this kind of corporation that is, hey, we're cool, we're hip. that's the message. But then when you start working for them, I mean, it's like, don't say that. Can't wear that. Don't look at, don't do this, don't do that. And it's just this thing of like, Jesus, so that was for me is the relatability to this movie and why I think it's never going to kind of lose its luster because that's what's always going to be around is these, as you grow, kids nowadays, whether they work for an ice cream shop or whatever it is. And even as you get into your, how in our age, you're still working. Although I think as you get older, you can kind of pick and choose kind of your jobs a little better. But yeah, I mean, it was just always it was always one for laughter because when I remember seeing it, it was the same reaction I had to what's that Coen Brothers movie with George Clooney and Brad Pitt?
Burn After Reading.
Yeah, I had the same reaction. It was just, and the theater was a lot more full for that movie, but I mean, everybody was laughing in the theaters and I feel like if the theaters were a little more full for this movie, like it would have had that same reaction because it was just a funny movie. And at the time, it was kind of saying the things that I wanted to say and, you just can't do because, you'll lose your job and, all that kind of stuff. So.
My first office job was working with you when you and I first started working together in 2003 at the law firm in Nevada. That was cubicle land. And
that was my first job. Office
was it?
Job. Office
okay.
Job, yeah.
So going back to that whole corporate, faceless corporate, thing that is such a great point in that there is no, you're working for, in this case, they're working for Initech, which is kind of a mediary between the banks or is it a bank? They've got their own, it's not really very well defined. It doesn't really matter either. But that 9-to-5 cubicle life was actually at the time, it felt like, boy, once I get to that point, then I know that I'm kind of on the road to success. Like that's kind of the benchmark of, are you, because, having 3 part-time jobs, juggling 3 part-time jobs, working 2 sometimes on the same day. It is, you feel like, if someone were to ask you, so what are you doing? And especially when you're in your mid-20s at that point, you're like, well, right now, and like you haven't figured out what it is you want to do with your life. But once you get into that 9-to-5, that kind of is what you're doing with your life. And clearly for the characters in this movie, this is not what they want to do with their life. Even though they're in the 9-to-5, in the air-conditioned building, it's not very laborious in that one of my jobs was, hoofing lumber around. That was hard. I was like, boy, if I could just have that cushy office job where I can Monday through Friday and have every weekend off, I'll know I've made it. And then go to the law firm, which is Monday through Friday, 9-to-5, and then you're in the cubicle. You're like, wow, this sucks too. And right? You're like, there's grass is always greener kind of thing. And like you get in there and you realize, shit, these guys were miserable. Everybody in this movie is miserable with the exception of Lumberg, who just wanders around and harasses everybody all the time.
Passive-aggressively,
so passive. Gary Cole is absolutely amazing at this character. He's iconic in this. You still, anytime I hear anybody go, great. These are still like just little, okay. All of those little mannerisms of Lumberg is the corporate head that you're like, you can't put a face on it, but here's this guy with his 2-tone dress shirts, the very Robert Kraft kind of, the white collar and the blue and the suspenders, and he looks like corporate. And he drives the Porsche, and you're like, this guy's made it, right? This guy's made it. And he's just so, like, volumed out. I don't know what. He's got, like, one, and it's just so faceless and soulless kind of thing. But he's the vice president of the company, and if you were to ask, he's the one who has made it. He is the corporation.
Well, I think, working at that firm with you, I remember training. This was kind of like the wake-up call that I probably did myself, but to actually see it in somebody else. I was training this young lad. He had just graduated from a really prestigious college in the Bay Area, Cal. And and his thing was he wanted to get into law, and so he was in my department. They put him in my department for some reason, and I was training him for the week. And I remember, so Friday came around, and it was just like, and what we did, I trained him by Tuesday. So you know, by Friday we were just, hey, here's my CD collection, of music, and then, but I remember that Monday or Tuesday after, he comes up to me and he goes, so is this all we do all day? And I went, yeah. And I saw the life draining from his eyes.
Oh God,
of like,
so sad.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay. And dude, didn't last the week. He was gone. He was like, I'm out of here. And it kind of made me think like, oh shit, I'm not the only one that thinks this. Because I mean, I had a different experience from a lot of people. I think for me, I was Peter in this situation. I even now, I couldn't really tell you what I did. I mean, I called people, but I spent most of the day just listening to music. And I think at the time we were in our band too. And I remember thinking like, all right, well, I'm going to write this song tonight. It's going to go like this. How do I want to do it? Okay. And I listened to like 4 or 5 bands. Yeah. Okay. I kind of want to write it like that. And then, oh, it's lunchtime. Okay. Hold on. And then we'd go hang out or go out to lunch or whatever, come back. And, like Peter says, then I would just zone out for about an hour.
Right.
And yeah, it was just a soul draining job. And so that's what made me, this movie, especially like, oh, yes, get it, so.
You wanted to be hypnotized and make it feel like you've been fishing all day, right? You were like, that's a great,
I was like, they could do that?
Oh my God. What else can they do?
All right. So
let's talk about it then. There's so much to cover. It's an hour and a half long movie. I think it's right at 90 minutes. I forgot to write it. It doesn't really matter. It goes by quick though. And it's kind of, this is another one of those where it feels like it's kind of 2 movies in one, or it's like, there's so much fun stuff that it's like a skit after a skit after a skit. And then at a certain point, they realize maybe we should have a plot for this movie. So let's talk. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, it changes in the third act where they're like, oh yeah. So anyway, let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's go over it. All right. So the first scene was the opening scene, which was we kind of get introduced to like the 3 main characters. Is the commute when you're stuck in traffic?
So good.
And
we've all been there.
The Nevada Narrows, dude. Jesus.
Yep.
Going to and from that place. Because where we worked, it was the first, if you're going north, it's the last exit. And if you're going south, it's the first exit. And it's just a 2-lane highway. Or it was at the time, right? They're working on it now.
Traffic. That is where the traffic starts. You're in it all the way to Petaluma.
Yeah,
it's just so brutal. Yeah, and you get off right at 5 or 4, and it's just stopped out there. Oh.
And you think, all right, I'm going to come in early and get off at 3, and you think I'm going to beat the traffic. No,
nope.
It starts at like 2:30.
Yep. And just crawling for 7 miles all the way up across the county line. It's a little better now that they've widened it and we've got a 3rd lane in there. And but Nolan and I were doing a crazy commute too. But we've noticed just in the last couple of years that I don't know if more people are remote and just staying remote or what, but it used to be an hour and a half each way, and we're down to like an hour and a little over an hour in the morning and about an hour and 15 on the way home. So it's actually short since the pandemic started. Yeah. We were just wearing it before, and we're carpool, but it's no carpool in the East Bay because you have to have 3 or more people. And so we're just, stuck in. So the commute part, we don't have that surface street commutes like this guy, they have where the guy is like standing there selling stuff. And Michael's listening to gangster rap with the windows rolled down. And then he sees the black guy walking down the street and he rolls he's all, it's so good where he's this tough guy, but like all that
I got this killer up inside of me. I can't talk to my mom, so I talk to my diary.
So good. Getting passed by a guy in a walker. You think you can outsmart the traffic by switching lanes. It's just a great opening intro credit. More. Yeah. So
yeah, that is the ultimate too. Like you said, you think you can outsmart the traffic.
No.
But this is where we get introduced, not by name, but by sight. Like you said, there's Michael Bolton, Samir, and Peter Gibbons is the three main characters. And then the first scene, which is, well, going into the first scene, which is he gets shocked. You can tell he gets shocked every day. But
yes, all these little things that you can see. These little tiny things are why his soul has been sucked out of him. He gets shocked. Exactly. That happens to me. I know that my car's got a short in it, so every single time I walk up to the car, I got to make sure. I have like PTSD from this, where when it does actually shock me, I'm like, oh, how did I have had this car 15 years? How do I not know this, right?
Oh, yeah. So then this is the scene. The first scene is basically the memo. Did you get the memo?
Oh.
And we get kind of the idea of what he goes through when a mistake is made, and which is kind of, geez. I mean, I think I've had I think there was one job I had where I kind of went through that. Not to the extent that he did, but I had two bosses, and then I would always get an email from one, and then the other one would come and talk to me. And it was just like, yeah, I know. It's been, we talked about it. It's cool. I'm new. I'm learning, Right. But, dude, that's horrible to see, especially when the two guys come, Lumberg, and then I forget
Dom.
the other guy's name. Yeah.
Dom. They say the same exact thing.
Yeah. And they're not, you could tell the whole horror of it is that they're not listening. They're just programmed to say,
yes.
And he's like, you know what? It's not really a problem anymore. They don't go out till tomorrow, so it's not really a problem. Yeah. So if you
that's
could
great.
Really, just
that's right.
Yeah, nothing. And then that's when he goes to Samir and Michael, and they get their intro scene, which is Samir Naga. That's mine. Thank you. Okay. Michael Bolton. Wow.
Dude, the Michael Bolton gag through this movie is so good. It's just random. And you kind of wonder if Mike Judge is like doing kind of a Trey Parker and Matt Stone kind of thing, where I'm putting you in this movie and I really like, this is kind of Michael Bolton's music's certainly not for everyone. This adult contemporary, just saxophone covers and a lot of things like that. Or that's not saxophone. Michael Bolton's When a Man Loves a Woman. Well, right? I'm thinking Kenny G. I'm thinking of Kenny G.
Well, no, he played with Kenny G a couple times. I think. Yeah. But, Michael Bolton's, when Peter comes in, hey, I got to get out of here, you guys. What's up, G? He's always the badass of those three.
His name's Michael Bolton. He listens to nothing but gangster rap.
Yeah. You could tell he's been traumatized by his name, because he's just like anything but Michael Bolton music.
That's right. And he comes up with the phrase that was coined in this movie, where there's nothing wrong with that name. And he's called, there was nothing wrong with it until a no talent ass clown showed up, started winning Grammys. Ass clown. I used that earlier today without it's in the lexicon now for sure. That's a living legacy, or the lasting legacy of Office Space.
He comes up with one later in the movie toward the end where he's just like, well, you guys could just eat my ass. He just comes up with these great ones. And then they go to the coffee. Now this is weird, because to me, you just get to work. It's probably like 9:15 in the morning.
Right.
And they're having coffee. And this dude comes up, and this waiter comes up and offers them with their coffee pizza shooters, shrimp poppers, or extreme fajitas. Now, does that, God?
Oh, breakfast time. Yeah, breakfast time. And they're all just coffee. Yeah. This sounds like a case of the Mondays.
Yeah.
And at that point, Peter is ready to go postal, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, he was ready to. He even says that, right. And the waiter comes up. Brian comes up, and he's an employee of the month at this at the Tchotchkes every month. You can just tell, right?
Yeah.
He's
So Which they drop a really vague plot point. I mean, which is, man, what does he say? Because I could drop a virus in that company.
Oh,
yeah. He says it right at the table. And then it kind of just goes he doesn't say anything. No one says anything. And if you didn't know the movie, you would be like, yeah, whatever. It's just kind of a throwaway line.
Yeah, he's just shooting his mouth off, right?
Yeah. But you catch it, and then they're talking about poker, and now that he can't go to poker because he has to go to the what is it? The occupational hypnotherapist.
Yes, for this job that is okay. Let's talk about what they do at this place first of all.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Well, they haven't really. Right now, all they know is he's supposed to put cover sheets on his TPS reports before they go out. There was a memo about it last week. They're going to make sure he gets the other memo. So we don't really know what this place does, but it hasn't come out what they do. You're just at this point, it doesn't. It's neither here nor there what they do. He's going to go to an occupational hypnotherapist because his girlfriend thinks it'll be good for him, because she helped him. This hypnotherapist helped her lose weight, and he does a lot of other things. There's a bunch of things on his sign that he does: smoking cessation, occupational hypnotherapy. There's other things on there, and I should have paused it and wrote down what the rest of them were. I'm sure they're just ridiculous of what this Dr. Swanson does, but and I didn't write down the actor's name either, but he's great. He's been in a million things.
Yeah.
Every one of these characters now. These are mostly not common. Jennifer Aniston, really the star at the time. She's in, at the height of the Friends.
Yeah.
So she was kind of, how you get this movie greenlit is you need a star, and she was it.
Yeah.
Everybody else, Ron Livingston had been in, I think, Band of Brothers, and maybe that was, or he got that after. It's hard to tell. But anyway, sorry.
Swingers.
Oh, right. Yeah. He was in Swingers. That's right. That's right. And he's the top billed. But you would argue that Jennifer Aniston is really the star of this.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. Okay.
Yeah.
So, And so where do we go? Okay. So we're at the hypnotherapist.
They give him a hard time about going to occupational hypnotherapy. They say, he says, I feel like I get the feeling she's cheating on me. And everyone's all, yeah.
Which is a running gag throughout the movie.
Which is another running gag that everybody knows except for Peter, right?
Yeah. And then Lawrence's neighbor that night, he goes, it's the next night, or I don't know when it is.
So they go back to the office, and Tom, their buddy Tom, catches them as they're coming back across the parking lot. Yeah. And he's like, did you read this? The thing that the lady was passing, Nina, corporate accounts payable, Nina speaking. Nina was passing out all these memos to everybody, Michael.
It's a staff meeting, so what?
It's a staff meeting, right. And he says they're bringing in a consultant. This happened over at Intertrode. So this is kind of a thing and what's happening at the time in 1999 or 98, 99 is the world is preparing for the Y2K. The Y2K scare.
Yeah.
Like this is our main, we're in peacetime. We're not at war in the U.S. It was, it was Clinton's finishing up Clinton's second term.
Yeah.
It was like the good old days, but this was like the big problem is we've got holy cow, when they did computer programs, instead of putting 4 digits for the year, they only put 2. So when it goes from 1999 to 2000, is the computer going to know? Is it going to think that the computers are going to go back to 1900? And if so, that could destroy maybe everything, the world.
Well, this, for people that weren't alive back then, this was a genuine concern for a lot of companies. Yeah. I mean, it was, for the average person, it was like, but you heard there's a lot of stuff on the news. There's a lot of stuff in print about what's going to happen in 2000. Is the world going to end?
Your money's going to be gone from your bank account. Planes are going to fall from the sky. Like aircraft, they were concerned. Like, do we ground all the aircraft because if you're you're taking an international flight and the computer tries to reboot itself? Yeah. Will the computer just shut the whole? I mean, it was a genuine. We don't know.
Yeah.
So what companies had to do was apparently hire, and with the banks was, is the money going to be gone? And this what Initech does is they go back and they have guys like Peter, who's a software engineer, I believe he's a software engineer or an account engineer, and his job is to go in and change the line of code to go, instead of 2 digits, put 2,000.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the job, man. And that's, holy God. And so they hire so many people. When they figure this out, we could have a potential problem at some point in the 90s. And these companies just hired crazy amount of people to go in and do it.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, we're getting into 99. At this point, I think the companies were realizing they would start calling these consultants in to figure out, how can we streamline this? Are we going to make it in time? Because December 31st, they get the memo that they're hiring consultants, and it's got Tom freaked out.
And that leads to the pet rock story and the jumping to conclusions mad, and it's just a very horrible idea.
This is the worst idea.
We get the next scene, which is, what is this? Lawrence, the neighbor.
We get to meet Lawrence.
We get to meet Lawrence. He's working that drywall down at the new McDonald's.
That's right.
Vascolinas.
Vascolinas.
And let's see. Hold on. Oh, yeah, the $1 million. What would you do for $1 million? I tell you. Man. And this guy, it seems like this guy has just been waiting for this his whole life. I'll tell you what I could do for him.
He knows exactly.
Well, you don't need $1 million to do that. Well, what does he say? The type of dude I am, probably
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you don't need $1 million. You 2 chicks at the same time. That's it. He's like, yep. Always wanted to do that. And I figure if I had $1 million, I could hook that up. Chicks dig dudes with money, and they're like, well, not all chicks. Yeah, well, 2 that'll double up on a dude like me. That's all. Lawrence has his expectations kind of pretty low. He's okay with, he's kind of breezy. He's upset that he's got to wake up so early to hang drywall. But other than that, he's chill, man. This guy is kind of a free spirit. You gotta love Lawrence so much.
And then that takes us to the therapy session, which is where Peter, the movie kind of takes off from here a little bit until we hit the plot, which is coming up later. But this is where he gets hypnotized to not care and to not, kind of just go with the flow. And you can tell he does a lot of it because he does a lot of this.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You could tell that's his thing of being relaxed.
My concern was, I've never been hypnotized before. And after seeing this movie, I said, I'm not going to ever do one of those hypnosis things, because honestly, what happens if you're hypnotized and as they're bringing you back, right before you get to 3, and when I get to 3, you will come out of your trance, 1, 2, and then the person keels over. Are you stuck in this trance? And that's what happens to Peter. Yeah. He gets stuck in this I don't care phase. He doesn't really care about his job. He's got all this confidence in the world. He went from, you don't just go up and ask a waitress, you don't just go up and ask her out. I mean, he's kind of got the waitress in tchotchkes that he's got his eye on. He's got her kind of up on this pedestal where he's like, oh, you can't do that. His whole personality changes. And now he's in this kind of drone-like, don't GAF state. And then there's Peter's off. Peter's off from that point.
And that's where the movie kind of takes the engine, takes control. And then that's when you get the 17 messages from Lumberg when he asks you to come in on Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah. He was asked to come in all weekend, which is what he didn't want. All week he was worried that he was going to have to work all weekend. And sure enough, he gets asked to work all weekend. So he just stays in bed. He wants to do nothing. His goal is to do nothing.
And it was all that he ever dreamed it would be.
Yeah. He gets his wish. And they call, and his girlfriend calls, and she breaks up with him over the phone. And, oh, by the way, I have been cheating on you. So everybody was right when it comes
the hypnotherapist, what I forgot to bring up was she cured my girlfriend's eating disorder. or something.
Yeah.
They're like,
Helped her
Peter,
lose
she's
weight.
anorexic.
That's right.
Yeah, he's really that good.
He's really good. He is very good. And apparently Dr. Swanson is very, very good. Because Peter feels like he's just been zonked out. He's like the Severance thing, right?
Yeah.
Where he doesn't, I don't know if he's really cognizant of what he's even doing. It sounds like he kind of is. Like he's not a different person per se, but the hypnotist has erased that caring from his mind. And it stays gone until they have a huge problem, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But he stays consistently with this, F it mentality, right?
Yeah.
So the guys start having. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, which is what I wish, what I have now mostly. And if I was back in my 20s, I would definitely be like, man, I would have used that left and right. But as we get going, the Bobs show up. And this is the scene with the first ball. Yeah. This is Slidell. And Bob Slidell. What was the other guy? Bob Porter is the other guy.
Is it Bob Porter? Okay.
Yeah, we call them the Bobs.
They call the Bobs.
John C. McGinley, he is so great in this movie. And even Paul Wilson, who's been in other things as minor characters. And he's great in this one too. He had a couple of improvs in this movie that kind of hit. And it was kind of good. But then this is when is this where Tom goes in? Yeah, this is where
Tom's the first person to go in. He's already told the guys on their walk back from Tchotchkes that he met him in the park. He's like, he knows that he's the first one to go because his job is complete bullshit.
Yeah.
All he does. And so they asked Tom to describe what he does on a daily basis. And it's so painful to listen to because as he's saying it, they're like wincing as he's telling them. Well, so you physically take the specifications from the customer down to the engineers. Whoa. Or my secretary does it, and they're like, ooh, or they're fax. Okay, well, I just have to ask, why couldn't the customers just take them? No. Well, because the customers.
I have people skills.
People skills, don't you see? What the hell's the matter with you people? Clearly, he's been doing this like 30 years. He tells the guys, I've been, he tells Peter later on that at some point he reveals he's been doing this for 30 years. This is a job that doesn't even need to exist, basically. Right. And this is where automation comes in because I'm sure, 30 years. So he's been doing this since 1970. Back then, you needed to stay on paper, and you couldn't fax things back then. You get teletypes, I think. Back then, you could get these things called teletypes, but usually documents were either couriered one place or another. So he, at one point, did have to do. Now it's just emailed, faxed. He doesn't. It's really a nothing job, and so when you hire efficiency consultants, a job like Tom's is probably one that could go.
Yeah.
And you're just like, dude, he's so fired, and he knows he's so fired. But the two Bobs, they're so good. Just their faces, just every interaction by the Bobs is just comedy gold. They're so good at the playing those roles. My God.
Well, right before I started working at the firm, I worked at Macy's, and I was in Conning here in Santa Rosa. And there was a guy I worked kind of all around, but I was kind of mostly like a warehouse type of dude. I worked, shipping, or not shipping, but just getting everything put wherever. And in the back, in the dock, where they call the dock, where the trucks would back in and unload stuff, we had a dock manager, and he had been there. So it was 2003, and he had been there, he said, for 40 years. So we're talking, 60s?
Yeah.
And let's see. So he had 2 kids. He had 2 sons. And so working at Macy's, he was able to buy a house in Santa Rosa over by the JC. It's a great area. Put 2 sons through college and go on vacations, once a year, 2-week vacations once a year. And I remember, I think I was actually 44 years. And I remember thinking like, geez, like I couldn't even, I can't do that now with what you were saying with 3 jobs. You probably couldn't even do that now.
Oh yeah.
And so, but the thing is that I don't think he was retiring too when I was about to quit. And I think that they were going to get rid of his job anyways, because I went back about 5 or 6 years later and I was like, hey, did you guys ever rehire somebody for the doc position? And they're like, oh, we don't have that position anymore. So It was always this thing of like, you got to retire or we're going to, and I think that, 44 years is a good run,
Oh, absolutely. 44 years at Macy's. Absolutely. That's so funny. And they could, and his wife may or may not have worked.
Yeah.
And he was working 9 to 5 as a dock with supervisor. My parents built their first home in Forestville with a friend who was a contractor who built it for them. But they built their first home in 1974. I'm a little tiny kid. My dad was driving forklift in a warehouse and was able to afford to not only own property, but build a new house. Yeah. I mean, this is unheard of. I mean, for less than $20,000, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, these are unheard of times. This is why, you kind of, good luck if you haven't bought, to the younger generation. I don't know how you guys are going to do it. I mean, I'm just seeing that some report came out that said that a 40-hour week, nobody can afford a 2-bedroom apartment on a minimum wage job in any city in the U.S. now. I mean, that's your minimum wage as a forklift driver. That's minimum wage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was able to build a house. I mean, it's so crazy. So anyway, it's a simpler time, but I hear what you're saying. These are, and you need forklift drivers, but you're right. You don't need the guy with a clipboard when everybody's got a tablet and the driver doesn't need to communicate with the warehouse guy. That's all done right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel for the, what is it? What's his last name? Samowski? Whatever.
Yeah, Sminkowski.
I think it's just a good run, Tom. You gotta just take it. Take the L.
Yep.
So anyways, we go to lunch with Joanna and she does this cool thing where she's like, does the Friends thing. I don't know what her name was in Friends, but okay. When he goes, where do you work? I work at Initech. Okay. Yeah. That was awesome. And then he gets her number.
I will say this just before we move. The interaction, and I have it in my, what are some of the key scenes for this movie? Yeah. I think I keep going back to the diner scene, but this is a great diner scene, and it's also a great for guys. So he goes from he doesn't want to ask her out to now he's this confident. She comes in, he's just all and he's just very laissez-faire, nonchalant kind of, and she's kind of the nervous one in this. Yeah. Here's a tip for guys if you're new to the dating scene. And it could be the editing, the way that Mike Judge had this movie edited, or it could just be this is just a great tip for guys that if you're on a first date, second date, you're not. Watch what Peter does here, and when she goes Initech, and what's that? And he starts to explain what his job is, and you watch her eyes. As soon as her eyes start to wander around the room, he immediately changes the subject and brings it back and re-engages her. Yeah. And she's immediately. It's such a good little because some guys will just here's my 2-minute ramble about what my job is, and the person's not listening to you anymore. But the way he brings her back, the moment her eyes leave and she starts looking around the room, he brings it back. Good tip for guys out there.
That's a good catch, dude. I didn't catch that. That's good.
I've always enjoyed that. I've always thought that was just such a great part of that scene where as soon as her eyes go away, he goes, "It doesn't matter. I'm not going to go anymore." Yeah, and she's like, "What do you mean you're not going to go anymore?" Now she's like intrigued by this guy. Yeah. He's got her. Yeah. I like Kung Fu. You know what I want to do? I'm going to take you to dinner and then we're going to watch Kung Fu. Do you like Kung Fu? And it's all, she's just stars in the eyes. She falls in love that moment.
And then
if you're on a date, watch the physical cues. If they're looking around, change the subject, come back to something else, and re-engage with them. That's a great little tip from your Uncle Tobe.
And Uncle Tobe. All right.
Good.
No, that was a good observation. I didn't ever catch that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And then Peter meeting with the Bobs. And did you notice the dry erase board in the back?
I did. I was trying to figure out what the
Planning to plan.
And there's all these. They've made this huge. It's a great brainstorming session. I wish I could read what was on that board.
Well, it's just telling you how to plan. You got the plan to plan.
It's so micromanaged at this place where he tells him he's got 8 different bosses, and they're all, I beg your pardon, 8 different bosses. And of course they have 8 different bosses because these are consultants, these are efficiency consultants, and the problem they have is there are too many people at the top.
Yeah.
He's got, like you said, you'd have your manager send an email, and then your supervisor would come over and basically read the email to you, and did he get it? And they're just constant. They're not doing any work. All they're doing is just making sure the workers are doing work.
Yeah.
And that was a huge thing in corporations back then, just so much micromanaging, where people that have been with the company for so long get promoted to these positions where they're not doing the thing that they were good at that got them there in the first place.
Yeah.
It's cliche for a reason. And I don't know that we have a whole lot of that in today's world. I don't know. It seemed like pre-pandemic, we may have had a lot of redundant jobs where people are just, but some glitch in the system, they keep getting a paycheck kind of thing. So we just have to, we fix the glitch. Well, hang on there, Professor. We fix the glitch. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that there's a whole lot of that now. Yeah. Not at my firm now. We're a pretty small firm. And so there's really not a lot of redundancy. Like, if anything, people are doing 2 different jobs.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know. Guys, hit us in the comments.
Yeah.
Are you still in a job where, there's cubicles in this kind of cubicle land? Because it seems like on the drive now, all those buildings that used to be these 5-6 story buildings, you could see the cubicle walls. Those are, like, a lot of them are for lease right now. Because, they're just, people are doing that cubicle job, but they're doing it from their kitchen table, or they're doing it from their office at home. A lot of those things have gone back inside. So I don't know. Well, government jobs not being we're not talking about government work. We're talking about, this is private sector. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I'm talking about. I don't know that people are going to cubicles 9 to 5. Maybe they are. You tell me, guys. Hit us. Put it in the comments.
Yes. Thanks. Because I'd like to know that as well. And then we got the plan and the plan. Let's cut to we got the talking to from Joanna, or to Joanna from her boss, which is Mike Judge himself.
Yes.
Which it's the total corporate talk, but in a restaurant setting, which is a corporate chain, you can say. So you're getting it from. It doesn't matter if you're working in cubicles, like I was saying before. You can get it in retail. I mean, because they're all corporations that own that place, anyways. And and even if I just happened a couple of years ago worked for a smaller company, but they strive to be corporate. Even though they were a small 2-man group, which had like 16 stores. So they were very corporate. Oh, no sitting down. Oh, even though there's nobody in your store, don't sit down. There's always something to be doing, even though the store is clean and I've done everything. Can't be on your phone. Well, there's nobody in the store, so there hasn't been anybody in the store. I don't know. So you have that corporate mentality even in the smaller stores or the smaller chains. So you just can't get away from it.
That sucks, man, because you're right. He's basically Lumberg, and he's got that very condescending, passive-aggressive. he's he's not an actor, Mike Judge, but he's so good at this stand where he's like, well,
and you're not getting what I'm saying here. You know?
Right.
That kind of look.
So, right.
Well, I mean, just one more thing to add too is that, you get all these. I had a couple of bosses just recently, just being like, "Oh, have you ever thought of management?" No, no, I don't want to be. And I think at my age and my skill set in retail, like, the only thing that I could do now is management, which I don't want to do.
Gotcha.
Because I just don't. I don't buy into what they're selling. I just, because I had a lot of, people coming in like, hey, I can't come in today. My frat's got a party and I'm the treasurer, so I got to be at this party. Okay, Well, Steve, you can't have just one person in the store. Well, what am I going to do? I'm not going to threaten them. You better come in, and I can't do it. I don't.
It's not you. It's not what you're going to do. Yeah,
I'm not going to do that. So, anyways, yeah. So you're getting it at every level.
Great point.
You haven't then Lumberg when they're going over the people they're going to fire.
God, that's written down as one of my big. That scene with the Bobs and Tom and Lumberg is comedy gold the whole way through. And Dom, yes,
yeah, and
not Tom, right,
and and then it's what does he say? He goes, "Nah, God, not going to work here anymore, anyways." And you see John C. McGinley just laugh, and that's a genuine laugh too because that wasn't in the script.
It wasn't. I didn't know that.
No, he just couldn't. But then you do the whole. You have not challenged him enough.
Oh yes, they get to Peter, and
there it is.
There it is. And he's so heated. John's Bob Slidell.
He's just like
I can't take my eyes off him in that scene where he is like they're like gleefully firing people, and then they get to Peter and they're excited to talk about boy, what a firecracker you've gotten this guy.
What a straight shooter.
A straight shooter with upper management written all over him. And Lumberg's like, ooh, yeah. And again with the passive aggressive, I'm gonna have to go ahead and sort of disagree with you there. Yeah.
And he goes, I'll take this one.
Right, because Bob holds him back. He's holding him back. Bob and John C. McGinley is ready to launch himself over the table at Lumberg. How dare you talk about Peter this way?
Yeah.
There it is.
There it is.
So then he gets pissed, and they're like, well, actually, now that we're talking about it there, Bill, how much time would you say you've been doing on these TPS reports?
And did you notice that he's wearing the same outfit in the picture as he is in real life?
I probably did at some point, but that's great, yes. It's probably taken earlier that day, just for there. But he's got the same suit kind of thing going on, the two-tone.
Oh, man. And then after that, we got the Feels Good to Be a Gangster montage.
Yes.
Where they're, I think they're, what is that where they beat the cop?
No, it's not. So let's see, where are we here? Let's see.
He's just hanging out with, he's fishing.
This is where he and Joanna, they have a montage of he and Joanna's relationship is now. They're watching Kung Fu together. They go fishing with Lawrence, and he takes his cubicle apart and pushes the wall down. And he guts the fish and throws it on the TPS reports. It's a great montage. Damn, it feels good to be a gangster by the Ghetto Boys.
Can we talk about the soundtrack of this movie too? As we get to there? Yeah.
Yes.
Can we talk about it? Let's do it.
Love those Ghetto Boys. There's a couple of Ghetto Boys songs in it, more than one. The Mambo number 5 is kind of the background music for the whole thing. But yes, tell me about the Ghetto Boys and you in this. Why this just works so well.
Well, for me, it was just it's always been the kind of like how they aspire to be, but they're stuck in this sterile environment, like you said, like a soulless environment. Yes. But they just want to get out, and with Michael Bolton, his thing, and Samir, and it's just I don't know. For me, it was always just kind of the perfect fit because they just want to break free. They want to be gangsters, but it's like they're in this fucking cubicle.
We kind of all wanted to be gangsters, though, dude. As another white guy that's late 90s, early 2000, early mid to early 20s kind of ish. I was right in this. And this is our demographic, right? This is us Gen Xers, and we were all listening to. I mean, I've got my Ice Cube shirt on today because there's an Ice Cube song that's in here. Oh my God! I mean, absolutely. We all wanted to be, There's the use of gangster rap in this corporate. Yes.
Well, it goes back to even that Chappelle skit with the when he's the black KKK guy, and it's like when they're in the truck and he's like, "What's up, music?" Those white kids in the car, and he's like, "Did he just call us that?" Right, because that was the whole thing. We all wanted to. We were all listening to the music, and so that was great. But this is kind of where the movie kind of finds its plot, I guess.
It does. And takes off. So they decide that they're going to let Milton go. Yeah. And we can't forget about Milton because Milton's a big deal. They decide they're going to let Milton go, and then Lumbergh now doesn't have Peter as a punching bag anymore, so he really starts in on Milton where they're going to. I'm going to need you to move your desk again. Yeah, Milton and Stephen Root's Milton is. I don't know if you've ever seen the animated shorts.
Yeah, I did.
But he's identical. I mean, that's Milton. Of course, Mike Judge did the voice of Milton on those. Like he did with Beavis and Butthead and just about everything else. But Stephen Root playing this, but it was told, but just this so just awkward and nobody's listening to a word.
If Joanne is allowed to wear her headphones while she files, then I should be allowed to listen too.
Nobody's listening to anything he's saying, and it's important that you do because every time that people tell him and when Peter talks to him on the phone, they're calling each other from the next cubicle over, which I thought was really funny because we used to do that in the cubicle. It was called the next cubicle where you could just poke your head over, but it's really
or email or text or whatever that was.
Right. Yeah. And Milton confesses to multiple times to what's going to happen.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Which is so good in that, just not to open, and nobody's listening to him. So anyway, let's keep going.
And this,
we're not there yet. This is where the plot comes in.
Well, the virus plan is so this is where they get it from Superman 3, which I was a big fan of that movie. A lot of people aren't, but I was.
So the Bobs tell Peter he's being promoted and they're going to fire his buddies.
Oh, that's right.
He goes and tells his buddies. They get drunk. And they go, well, what was that idea about that virus that you mentioned? So that goes back to the opening diner scene where they're in tchotchkes, and he goes, well, it works pretty well. It's like Superman. He's all, this sounds familiar. They did in Superman 3. Which rounds off the remainders of fractions of pennies into an account that they... and it's supposed to take years and years and years. And so that's the virus, but it takes all three of them to implant the virus in the software.
And you got another montage. Yeah.
So then you have the back up in your ass with the resurrection.
And that's where Michael Bolton breaks the fourth wall.
That's the Ice Cube song. Down for Whatever is the Ice Cube
Cube?
Song. Yeah, that's Cube. So they plant the virus, and it's all this, snap cuts. It looks like it's now a spy movie.
And then that lady goes by and goes, "Hi, Michael Bolton," and he's like,
and he turns to the kid, breaks the fourth wall, and he looks at us like, "Yeah, there it is, nice." Oh God.
And then we got Drew. Drew comes up. Hey.
Oh boy.
Did you hear about Tom? And then that whole thing. And that
is he okay? Yeah, he's fine. Broke his legs, back, couple of ribs.
But he just got out of the hospital. He's throwing a big party. Everybody's invited, man. Yeah.
He's getting a big settlement. He got his $1 million.
Yeah.
So that's all Tom really wanted, and he couldn't be happier, right? So
think about taking that girl from logistics. All good's good. I'm gonna show her my old face.
Yeah.
Oh man! And then after that, that's when we get the copier. That's when you get the Goodfellas thing, right?
Well, no, you're forgetting the barbecue. So we planted the virus. Now we're going to keep it secret. No, they do take it's Michael and Samir's last day. So they take the copter out to the field and they beat it up, and it's something we've all wanted to do. You're absolutely right. The copier.
And then he explains to Joanna, and then he's like, "We can't say anything," and then he ends up telling Joanna.
Right. The drive to the barbecue. He's just telling her the whole plan. She's like, well, and that's not stealing? Well, it becomes ours. Okay. It's not your money, but then it becomes yours. Yeah.
And then we got Tom's party, which is, that's the, who brought her? Oh, she's with me. Oh, yes. Right, dude. Wear rubber, dude.
And Peter's demeanor changes at this point.
Yeah.
Because at this point, he's still happy-go-lucky. He's just been promoted. He's now going to rip this company off. He's got a little, we're going to have this little nest egg, and I'll just keep going through life like no big deal and go to do this job, but I don't really care. And Drew tells him that Joanna's been around and like a record. And he says that the classic, and sorry for being rude here, but Lumberg after, and he can't stop, and he's thinking it's Lumberg his boss, because who else were we talking about? There's only one Lumberg in this movie. Yeah. So it's a miscommunication there, and then he's now just a different guy.
Yeah. He gets pissed on the way home because they start, you little thief man person or whatever.
Right. Penny stealing wannabe robber person.
Man. And then it gets to that nightmare that he has, and Lumberg's like, just move a little to the left. Oh, Peter, how you doing?
Just traumatized. And
I think I ripped out my last page of notes. So
then Joanna. So then it goes to Joanna. She quits her job.
Yeah.
She goes to Stan, and Stan's like, and take it. She's like, he's like, well, I thought you said that you wanted to express yourself. And she's like, listen, if you want me to wear 37 pieces of flair, then make the limit, then make the job 37 pieces of flair. And he's like, well. So she flips him off, and she storms out. She quits her job. And then Peter in the morning checks the bank account, and they got a massive problem. There's $303,000 in this account just from implanting it from Friday afternoon to Monday morning.
Yeah.
And this is time. And so this is where the plot is. Now you've got a situation where, and this is what I meant by, at this point it kind of finds the plot. We've had all these little kind of skits, which are funny skits about office and working and your friendships with your coworkers, and it's been, it's entertaining, but we're like, what is this movie about?
Yeah.
So now they got the problem. They got a problem to solve. Yeah.
And so, and then we get Orlando Jones. We get a lot of Peter getting alienated because he pushed it on to these people who are, like you said, just his work friends, because you never really see them outside of work, and unless you count the bar scene when he's telling Michael that he's getting fired. But and then it kind of, I think this is kind of where, for me, this is kind of where I kind of not check out, but like I'm kind of like, all right, let's just go get to the end here. But I still love this movie. It's just one of those. It's just that moment in the movie where I'm just like, okay, I'm ready for it to be done. And so then we get he's gonna take the blame. He writes the letter and slips it into Lumber's.
He puts the money in he takes the traveler's checks, and he's gonna go in there and fall on the mercy of the Initech.
And we get the whole a day, what is that? Deus Machina Indian kind of, thing of like, everything works out perfectly. The fire, Milton starts the fire because he doesn't get his paycheck or whatever. I can't remember.
So the way he gets the money is funny, and I don't know that I caught this every time, but I did catch it this time. Was Peter goes in the middle of the night and puts the money, puts an envelope and the confession in an envelope, slides it under Lumberg's door, and then has second thoughts, and he dives back under, he's trying to get the thing out from under the door, and he's like, oh well, it's done now, and he goes home. Milton the next morning wants to see Lumberg. He's not in yet. Secretary gets up. Milton comes back and he's muttering, well, at least I'm going to go back and get my stapler. He took my stapler. And Milton just walks in the office. And I'm like, oh, so Peter could have just opened the door. And next thing you know, the place is burning down, which Milton has said he's going to do. He's been telling everybody he's going to burn the place down. I set the building on fire.
And then Peter gets the job of cleaning up the fire.
Yes.
Finds the stapler. Michael and Samir, hey, do you want to get your job at Intertrode? Or no, he goes, did you guys get a job at Penetrode?
Penetrode. So he's just out working, making bucks. He and Lawrence are working to get to work together.
And
now.
Milton's on a beach somewhere complaining about getting a margarita instead of a Mai Tai.
That's right.
That's how the movie ends.
No salt.
So, as we get to the end of this movie, let's get the Klay Thompson Award for this movie.
You got it.
I just picked Drew just because he's in for about 2 scenes and makes his mark. And the dude is funny. There was this, I think in 2005, I want to say, after the Super Bowl, I think it was the Steelers when they won their first Super Bowl. They're on ABC after the Super Bowl. There was this show called, I want to say, Sons and Daughters.
Okay.
And it was this totally kind of improvised show. It was kind of like a Curb Your Enthusiasm type of show, but it was a sitcom. And it was funny as hell, man. I remember me and my girlfriend at the time watched it, and it was funny. We were always waiting for the next week when we'd sit down and see it. But anyway, this dude Drew is in that. He played like the boyfriend of the daughter in that movie. It had Drew, or not Drew, but what's that girl's name? She was the mom in E.T.
Oh God, yeah, I know who you're talking about. I can't.
Yeah, it was her. She was the mom. The dad was the guy from Barney Miller, one of the detectives.
Okay.
And then they had, and so they had a granddaughter, and the granddaughter's boyfriend was this dude. And he was a funny guy. So that's my pick for the Klay Thompson Award for this.
Very nice.
What about you?
Very nice. Well, Drew was on my list, but I'm gonna say Stan, Tchotchke's manager, is mine, which is, like we said, played by Mike Judge. He plays it so well. Just the over the top. He takes his job so seriously, but you can just tell she hates the over excited Brian, the waiter, her coworker.
Yeah.
Who's just way too upbeat and nothing ever gets him down, and he's just, she's like, I hate that guy. But Stan,
get a room, you two.
I think it's Stan for me.
That's a good one.
It's just because you don't get to see Mike Judge in a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah. And actually, he did the voices. Did he do the voice for Milton in the comic in the strip?
Yes.
He also did the voice for Lumberg too, right? No, in those strips.
Yes, he did all the voices. Yeah, he did all the voices in that strip.
Great guy. Okay, so do you have any sort of trivia, or do you have any sort of like top 3 what do you got?
Well, we could talk about the lines that have stood the test of time. I think we threw a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
Trivia wise, if you want to do a little, see if you can, how many of these you can get. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm kind of all over the place here. Here we go.
That's fine.
How many times does Milton warn people that he's going to light the building on fire?
I'm going to say 3 times.
It's 3 times. Well done.
Damn.
It's 3 times. He tells him on the phone, and yes, he says it 3 times. Here's a good one from what channel's the breast exam on?
Is it Channel 9?
It's Channel 9.
Yes.
All right, here's the last. If you get all three of these, you win the grand prize, 5,000 points.
Okay.
Michael has the Navy SEALs poster in his cubicle, and he's got it on his wall at his apartment, and he's got it in his cubicle. He's also got another poster in his cubicle that really stands out. Who is it?
I don't know. That one you got me. Is it Ice Cube?
Okay. It's not, but you're very close.
Ice-T. I don't know.
No, you're in the right city for sure.
Okay.
It's Snoop Doggy Dogg. And no, I would not have accepted Snoop Dogg as an answer on that one. Snoop Doggy Dogg, because that's how we knew him.
Yes. And that was our trivia game.
Trivia. Good job, everyone.
Brought to you by Scott Taylor, our good friend Scott Taylor. Anyways, so, all right. So we got final thoughts here. Toby, you got any final thoughts about this movie, about anything related to this movie, the era, whatever, anything?
Well, sure. I just thought it was, we maybe of memory hold the whole Y2K thing, but it was very traumatic. It was very traumatic for those of us who went through this. We weren't sure what was going to happen. So with that said, I wrote a little something down about, and I kind of wrote it, what would Lewis Black say about this? So if you'll just lend me a minute of your time here, I'm going to see.
Let's indulge you. Yes.
I don't do a impersonation per se, but let's see how you. Yeah. All right, you corporate drones. Well, you're all losing your minds over some stupid computer glitch that was supposed to end the world. Mike Judge was busy creating a cinematic masterpiece that perfectly captured the soul-crushing monotony of life, Office Space. It hit theaters in 1999, right when everyone was freaking out about Y2K, and I'll tell you this, it was a wake-up call to all the cubicle-dwelling zombies out there. Here I was, busting my ass working 3 jobs just to keep a roof over my head, and these Silicon Valley types are worried about whether their precious computers could handle a few extra digits. It's like the whole world had gone insane. And in the middle of this madness, Office Space comes along and says, hey, maybe the real problem isn't some arbitrary date change, but the fact that we're all slaves to corporate hellscape. This movie nailed it. The mind-numbing repetition, the passive-aggressive bosses, the goddamn printers never work. It was like holding a mirror. It was like looking into a mirror, except the mirror was laughing at you in your pathetic existence. And you know what? It was cathartic as hell. While governments are spending billions to prevent some imaginary tech apocalypse, Office Space was showing the real apocalypse, the death of the human spirit in a sea of cubicles and TPS reports. It was a rallying cry for all of us who were sick and tired of being cogs in the machine.
Woo!
Thank you. Other than that, I have no feelings on the matter.
That was excellent, my man.
Thank you. Thank you for indulging me.
Hey, the pleasure is all on this side of the screen right here.
Yes. I've done it. How about your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are nowhere near as great as that was. But my final thoughts were, I think that this movie was awesome. It's great. It was awesome from the first time I saw it till even when I saw it 3 times this last week. Just because it's one of those feel-good movies. You can put it on, you can do your stuff, put it on in the background, you hear what's going on, and even watch the movie and still get entertained, even though you know what's coming up. So I give this movie is going to be way up on my rate a movie meter, which is going to be probably, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. And that's my final thoughts on that.
I love it.
Well, hey, what would James Mason say if he was lumber?
No, I forgot.
No, you don't have to.
Oh no, I have to work on that.
We'll do it for next time. Save it for next time.
Okay, you guys.
Yeah. Anyways, hey, thanks for staying with us. Thanks for hanging out with us and talking about Office Space.
Yes.
We got some cool movies coming up, not in any order, but we got maybe Point Break. We got maybe Romancing Stone. We got maybe some, good stuff like that. Maybe
we got some newer ones. We're going to do some newer ones too.
Oh, newer ones, exactly.
We're going to do go see some movies, and then we'll review them and come back in some in the theaters type stuff. So
maybe a Complete Unknown. I don't know. That was the last movie I saw. We got Captain America coming up. I don't know what's on the plate. Write in the comments kind of the movies you want us to do. We love doing this, and
we'll do them.
Yeah, we'll do them. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you again next week. See you, Toby.
Say a little Lumberg for me.